Thank you for clicking on this review. I just got back from watching Harold and the Purple Crayon. And with this movie, based off the beloved children's book, we follow a grown Harold who now is thinking about what it's like in the real world, deciding to draw a portal to it and having a little adventure. That's all pretty much say without, you know what? I don't think I'm gonna keep this spoiler free. I think I'm just gonna tell you what I want to tell you. And you're gonna be fine with it. I don't think anybody even realized Harold and the Purple Crayon was getting released this weekend. In fact, I had completely forgotten of this movie's existence. The last time I thought about it is when I looked at the poster and I said, wow, that's a terrible poster, and why does Zachary Levi look like he's Michael Myers without the mask? So close to the costume manuscript, they're right there. But when I went to go see Trap the other day, on the screen to buy tickets, Harold and the Purple Crayon was right there, and I was like, oh, crap, I'm gonna have to watch a 9 a.m. showing of that. And that's what I did. I woke up early to be one of the only people in the theater for Harold and the Purple Crayon. Let's talk about it. Now, books based off beloved children books are not really that new. I mean, we've gotten the Diary of a Wimpy Kid movies, which for the most part were pretty fun. We had Alexander and the Terrible, Horrible, No Good, Very Bad Day, got a movie adaptation. Where the Wild Things Are, which I think is one of the better book to movie adaptations based off a children's book, but there's still so many other that have not gotten their movie adaptation. No David, that little rascal piece of shit, he's still out there being a menace. Oh, No David used to piss me off, dude. Why are you making your mama mad? If you give a mouse a cookie, where's his movie, man? I think he's moved on to a cell phone. Dude went through so many wild anime arcs and we're missing the potential for movie adaptations here. I think it's already too late for books like A Bad Case of the Stripes, because you know, as soon as they see the poster for that thing, they're gonna go, it's woke! It's woke! But Harold and the Purple Crayon, this little baby with a magical crown to draw whatever his heart desires and bring it to life, finally got his movie adaptation. And I just thought it was so weird. They looked at that book and they thought to themselves, this is good. This is something we could actually do. This is creative. But what if instead of a baby, it was a grown man that still behaves like a baby? I think DC has a movie like that. Shazam! Zachary Levi, here we are. The whole movie, Zachary Levi is acting like he has the mind and brain of a 10-year-old, just doing all these wacky things with the Purple Crayon. We've seen these fish out of water stories done dozens of times for a lot of popular characters, whether it's video game characters like Sonic into our real world, even Barbie coming into the real world for a moment had that fish out of water story. So there's a lot of hijinks that ensues with him not understanding societal norms, how things work, and then getting that culture shock when it's like, no, the real world is actually depressing. I can't live here. It's a cliched story arc that we've seen dozens of times, but hey, he's not there alone. He's got his moose and Porcupine, his lovable friends that once they cross over into the real world, for some reason don't stay as a porcupine and moose, probably for expensive CGI reasons, but instead get turned into real people. Now, I will say Moose actually did get me laughing a couple of times throughout the movies, but I felt so bad for Porcupine because she has her own subplot all throughout the film where she goes into the real world a little later than her two friends, and for most of the movie, she's being chased by police, is on the run. And anytime she comes across something purple, whether it's flowers, a balloon, or a bakery with purple cupcakes, she just assumes Harold has been there. And it's honestly quite sad to see her separated from her friends most of the movie. You're like, dude, this Porcupine is just having the worst day ever while Harold is just living it up with Moose. But the main story for Harold kind of comes along when he's introduced to his family, a mother, played by Zooey Deschanel, and her son, played by Benjamin Botany, named Mel, who actually was pretty suitable in the movie. I'm honestly gonna say Mel was probably the best actor out of them all. Kid at times was acting way more mature than Zachary Levi's character. But early on in the movie, they almost hit Harold with their car, and this kind of guilt trips them to kind of take in Harold and help him out until he lands on his feet. And you know, as much as I've been ripping this movie and just kind of having fun with it, it's honestly pretty innocent and harmless. I was fully going into this going, oh, this is gonna be a piece of crap. I'm gonna be able to clickbait the heck out of this and title it, I just watched the worst movie of 2024. Those views are gonna rack in. But it was just honestly fine. Like, this is for sure a movie I could see a 5-year-old to maybe 8 years old fully invest in, actually be distracted with for a few hours, and then move on with their lives unharmed Unlike I was when I saw Cat in the Hat, but that type of trauma makes you a man, buddy. You wish for a movie that awfully memeable to turn you into the great humorous man you are today. But no, like, I was having fun a couple of times throughout the movie when they're actually drawing things with the crayon, solving some creative problems. It's one of those plot devices in a movie you're like, dude, that's just so awesome. If I was a kid, I would already be envisioning all the things I would be drawing with that crayon. And you know, throughout the movie, Harold and this relationship with the kid, it works because the kid lost a father and he's being bullied at school. The mom's just working hard at this job at Ollie's, which is a real place. I've been to one here in Texas. Ollie's is the kind of store where things expire or other big stores like Target and Walmart no longer want, so they sell it to Ollie's and then they sell it to you for even cheaper. If this movie was sponsored by Ollie's, it just perfect representation of what they were trying to do here. And that's not the only objective Harold has, is to, you know, repair this broken family and help them out. He's also here trying to look for his old man, his creator, the author of the book, who has mysteriously stopped narrating Harold's stories. So Harold is spending a large majority of this movie also looking for what he considers to be his pop. That's sweet, that's nice. He's dead. He finds him and he's dead. But we continue on. The one real annoying part of this movie is all throughout, Harold has this crazy purple crayon that he can just do all sorts of things. And every time they're about to tell the mom, dude, this guy's literal magic and has this crown, mom's always like,
stop it. I don't want to hear more. Don't talk to me about this purple crown. Don't tell me about magic.
It happens like 5 or 7 times in this movie. And it was one of those annoyances where it's like, man, if you just quiet down, mom, show you I can draw a Ferrari with a purple crown, all of our problems will kind of be solved, Mom. We'll be rich soon. But that never really happens. I will say one of the other things that actually kept it interesting, and I was like, hey, that's actually a fun villain. There's this guy in the movie played by Jermaine Clement. His name is Gary, but all throughout the movie, they call him Gary the Librarian. And he's a failed author who really wanted to sell his like Game of Thrones style book series, but nobody's interested in him. Everybody thinks his world is kind of boring. And also, he wants to bang Mel's mom in this movie, played by Zooey Deschanel. He makes that very clear all throughout, but he does it in a charming way, as charming as a guy who wants to bang your mom can be. And well, as soon as he finds out who Harold is and his magical purple crown, this is the key he needs to turn his fantasy world into reality and then show off everybody who's ever made fun of them. My mind is superior. And again, I'm not gonna lie, part of me was like, all these elements and plot points I actually think are quite interesting and could have made for some fun storytelling, but just knowing the basis for all of this comes from a baby with a purple crown, and this is how far they've stretched the plot, feels a little ridiculous. But they take that ridiculousness and they go all out, because it all comes to a third act finale where Gary finally gets his hands on the purple crayon and he's drawing, you know, his Game of Thrones style stuff. He's got his staff, he's got his awesome armor, he's even got lava pits coming out. Harold's also fighting back, drawing shields and whatnot. I'm like, dude, this was a baby with a purple crown and now we get MCU level fight scenes? Oh, dude, Sony, this is the kind of cooking you did in Madam Web, and I love to see it. The funniest part, though, to me, is when Harold almost is able to take the purple crown away from Gary the Librarian, and Gary does the only sensible thing. He ingests the purple crown. And you think, oh, well, problem solved. That ends it. Somehow ingesting the purple crown allows you to have the magical abilities to conjure whatever you want. And I was like, oh my goodness. We are adding layers to these powers of the purple crown. Eating the purple crown gives you basically Green Lantern powers, where anything you can think of now conjures up, you make it yourself, and Gary the Librarian just basically leveled up. I couldn't believe how far this plot was going. I was like, this is masterpiece of the year. This is not worst movie of the year. This is most creative movie of the year. But that ultimate power obviously doesn't last long, and they create what they call a fly spider, a spider that can fly, to just go inside Gary's mouth into his digestive system and pull out the crown. Because why not? Our heroes save the day, and instead of imprisoning Gary for his evil deeds and causing destruction in this park, they just build a portal to his fantasy world. We get a look at a fantasy version of the mom, played by Zooey Deschanel, and they just let the villain go into his world to bang fantasy version of mom. Brilliant! Look, I obviously just spoiled and went through the nonsensical things that happened in this movie because I know the majority of you watching this don't really care to see Harold in the Purple Crown. This isn't a movie you're dying to see, but you're curious about some of the things that play out, and that's why I told you these things. When it really comes down to it, is this a good movie? Not really. But it's a movie you can clearly tell was tailor-made for a toddler to a young kid, and they're gonna have a blast with this movie. I mentioned I was alone in that theater. That was a lie. I have lied to you. I am no better than Gary the librarian. I was in that 9 a.m. showing of the movie with a mom and her little daughter. They were sitting a couple rows back from me, and they were having a blast. They were giggling, they were laughing. I turned back once the movie was over and the credits were rolling, and just saw a little smile on that kid, and that's who this is for. But because I hate the happiness of children,
I had to tear this movie down.
Obviously, this isn't like my typical reviews, but for those of you who still really want the scorecard, I'll just pop it onto the screen here for you. This isn't really a movie that I recommend you go out and see unless you just have really young kids and you need to distract them for a little bit. They're the ones that are going to get the full enjoyment out of it, and that's totally fine. I was hoping, honestly, this movie would be a lot worse, but it turned out to just be harmless, innocent fun made for a child.
No, please don't say that.
Let me know if any of you went to go see Harold in the Purple Crown and what you liked, what you didn't like. Were you surprised with some of the lengths they went through with this movie? Anything, everything, be sure and like, subscribe, follow me on Twitter at 3C Films or on TikTok at 3C Films. But as always, I'm Chris. Take care.